90% of the 2024 Waec Agricultural Science Practical Examination question will be treated in this video. Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you certain tips that will help you pass the practical examination, and also questions from each specimen will be analyzed in this video. So do well to stick around and watch this video till the end. Before we look at the various specimens, there are several things that should be noted about the practical examination. Number one, the practical examination makes up 30% of the total score in the examination. This means that passing your practical examination gives you an advantage in getting a good grade. Just imagine getting 25 out of 30 in the practical examination, then getting, let's say, about 25 from your objective and 10 from your theory examination. That gives us about 60, and that is a C in the Waec grading system. Number two, when you are asked for the scientific name of any organism, that scientific name should be underlined. But before you do that, the genus name must start with the capital letter. For example, Homo start with capital letter H. Then the specific name must start with a small letter, like Sapiens there starts with small letter S. Then you underline them separately. Number three, you should not paint or shade your diagram. Just draw to your own ability. What the examiners need from you is just a diagram that can clearly show some certain features in that organism. So you are not expected to paint your diagram or shade, and also draw with a pencil and not with a pen. Number four, you should label your diagram appropriately. When your diagram points to, let's say, one eye, you should write as I, E-Y-E. But when it points to both eyes, you should specify it as eyes. Also, you should give your diagram a title. Most times, most of them draw without giving their diagrams titles. So after drawing, probably I've drawn the diagram of a grasshopper. So title that work as a grasshopper. And lastly, when you have to contrast between two specimens, always draw a table. On one side of the table, you can indicate it as specimen A, and on the other side, you can indicate it as specimen B. And also, on the case of finding the difference, you should be consistent on every line. Probably on the first line, you can write it as, okay, this specimen has eyes. On the other side, you can say this specimen has no eyes. Don't write on one line, this specimen has eyes, and on the other side, you're going to write this specimen has no leg. Eyes and leg are in no way related. Our first specimen A is a ranging pole. So the first question they can ask us is to describe specimen A. So we'll simply describe what we can see and what we know it to be. So specimen A is a surveying instrument which is about 3 to 4 centimeter thick. That's the diameter, and the length is about 2 to 3 meter. So the ranging pole usually comes in different color. Most times it is in black and white or red and white colors. So also they have a sharp end, a sharp pointed end, while the opposite end is blunt. Most times that sharp end or the sharp end is usually driven into the ground. Then you can ask us for the uses of this specimen. So it is used for marking positions. That's for marking positions in a farmland. It is used for what we call sighting stations. We can peg it to the ground. Then these red and black colors are visible. It helps us to sight station. And also it is used for ranging straight line. We can draw a straight line and place this ranging pole at the two ends of that straight line. That's why it is called a ranging pole. Also, they can ask us a very good question: what is farm surveying? So for farm surveying, it's simply the process of measuring and mapping out positions. It could be height, size, or boundaries of a farm land. So the next specimen B is an arrow or a marking pin. So for description, specimen B is a surveying instrument, just like A. It has a very small diameter of about 4 millimeter and the length of about 5 or 50 centimeter rather, not 500 meter. So it has a sharp pointed end on one side, and on the opposite side it has a loop. That's that round and circular portion on the other hand. So it comes in various colors such as black and white or red and white, just like the arrow. So basically, the arrow is driven to the ground just to measure length. So we can peg the arrow at two different positions Then we can use our measuring tape to measure the distance between these two arrow pin to find the length of a particular portion of land. So just to add to specimen B, that loop or that circular portion of the arrow is used to hold the arrow, or probably if you have more than one arrow, you can use it to fasten or hold them together. So we move on to look at specimen C, which is a measuring tape. So from description, specimen C is a surveying instrument. It is usually graduated in centimeter and inches, but though this is subject to change, it depends on what you have in your examination hall. Your in the examination could be graduated in, let's say, centimeter and feet. So write what you have in your examination hall. And it also consists of a case. That yellow part is the case. Then we have a thumb lock. Thumb lock, there is that part towards the end of the black side that look like a loop. That's our thumb lock. Then we have a blade or a tape. The tape itself can also be called a blade, the one that has the reading. Then we have an hook. Hook. There's an iron portion on top of that at the middle of the case. That's the hook, so that whenever we've stretched the tape, it does not return back easily. It helps to hook the tape outside. Then we have a belt clip, which you can use to hold that measuring tape to your belt of your trousers. Then for the uses, it is basically used to measure length. So we move to specimen D, which is a wooden peg, or it's also known as a survey stick. So by description, it is a surveying instrument that is made of hard wood, but though it can be made from other materials such as metals or plastic. So it has a sharp pointed end which is driven into the ground. So basically it is used to indicate points and position on its side. Probably we've measured the land and land is 50 meter by 100 meter. We can place 4 feet at the edges of the land just to indicate the position of that land. So in your exam, you could be asked, specimen A to D are all what? Just know that specimen A to D are all survey instruments. So lastly, for A to D, they can ask you how can you maintain this instrument. Number one, you should keep it in a cool, dry place. Also, after each use, you should make sure that you clean them and keep them in a cool, dry place. Also, for those ones that are wooden, it is important you keep them away from termites because termites can attack wooden materials and destroy them. Also, for the metallic one, keep them away from moisture to prevent rust. So we are going to look at specimen E, F, and G as one because this is an experiment question. E is simply a dry soil in a capillary tube. F is dry clay in a capillary tube. Then G is loamy soil in a capillary tube. So this question will test your knowledge about capillarity. So capillarity is defined as the ability of water to rise up in a narrow tube. So let's just take two common examples. When you place straw in water, you observe that water will rise up in that straw. Or when you place a wick in a kerosene stove, kerosene will rise up in that wick. This is due to what? Capillarity. So capillarity depends on several factors like the soil type. For example, clay will allow water to pass through or to rise up better than the other types of soil. Also porosity, the holes present or the spaces present in the soil, and also permeability. For example, now let's take clay is more permeable than other soil. That's why it will allow water to rise up than when we compare it to the other types of soil. Also, there are various forces that determine capillarity. The two common forces are gravity. We know normally gravity tends to pull things downwards. Also, we have capillary forces, which tends to move water upwards and also retain water at those levels. Then there are some extra questions they can ask you from this area. They can ask you in terms of soil size, which one has the highest particle size? That is, sandy soil has the highest, followed by loamy, then clay. Clay is just like fine powder. Then you can also, in terms of water retention, which one can hold water better? It is clay, followed by loamy, then sandy soil. Also, they can ask us in terms of aeration, which one is more aerated? Sandy soil is more aerated than loamy, and loamy is more aerated than clay. Also, they could ask you which of them is the best for planting. So remember that the best soil for planting is the loamy soil. Our next specimen H is a maize weevil. You could be told to identify specimen H. So you are going to simply write maize weevil. Then for the scientific name for this specimen is Cytophilus maize. Remember, the genus name starts with a capital letter, while the specific name is starts with a small letter, and don't forget to underline them separately. So we are not going to bother ourselves with classification because it is not really relevant in this subject area, but it's very important in biology. Next, move to the description. For a description, it's a pest, or you can write it is a plant pest. It attack and damage both standing crop in the sense that plants and crops that are still on the field, and also stored cereals crop and grains like maize, rice, so on and so forth. In the exam, they could ask you, except or apart from maize, which other crop can it attack? Remember your various cereals crop like rice, sorghum, millet, so on and so forth. So it undergoes what we call a complete metamorphosis. So this is a good place they can ask you a question. What is complete metamorphosis? Remember, complete metamorphosis is a type of metamorphosis where the organism undergoes 4 different stages. That is from egg to larva to pupa, then to adult. So next, the egg takes about 36 days to fully develop to an adult. Also, this organism can live or it has a lifespan between 5 to 8 months, and it also has 3 pairs of walking leg. Then the next thing they could ask you, what is the economic importance? So for economic importance, remember, whenever they say economic importance, it does not only mean the good things. Economic importance means both the good and the bad. If they ask me in an exam, what is the economic importance of cockroach? I could write it's a household pest which destroys useful materials. So also it is for this guy. For the economic importance, there are so many. It is a destructive organism. Number 2, you could write it reduces the agricultural yield. Number 3, you could write it reduces the farmer's income. So there are so many economic importance for this particular specimen. So we move to specimen I, which is a bean beetle. You could be told to identify specimen I, so you are simply going to write a bean beetle. So next, scientific name. So the scientific name is Buchenia spp. So we are not going to bother ourselves with the classification. So move to the description. So for the description, they are pests or plant pests rather, just like the maize weevil. So they feed typically on bean and other legumes. So again, you could ask, what other crops can they feed on? Remember, we have so many legumes like soya bean, cowpea, and the rest. So you can write them as the other plants they can feed on. So they are both destructive on the field and then in storage. So they destroy both standing crop and also stored crops. So they undergo complete metamorphosis. Remember complete metamorphosis from the egg to the larva to the pupa, then to the adult. But though the most destructive stage of this bean beetle is the larval stage, the adults mostly feed on pollen grain. So you could be asked what stage of this specimen is destructive. So just remember it is the larval stage. So a single female adult can lay up to 300 eggs. So in the exam, you could be asked what are the other species of the bean beetle. So there are other species which are Acanthoscledis obtecus. You have Calobronchus maculatus and Calobronchus chinensis. So for the economic importance, remember it involves both the good and the bad. So they typically reduce agricultural output or yield. They can reduce the farmer's income. Also, they can be so destructive on the farm land. So that's that for the bean beetle. So we'll move on to specimen J, which is a grasshopper. It's a very familiar pest. So the scientific name for the grasshopper is the Califera spp. So we'll move on to the description. For description, they are chewing herbivorous insects and they are typically ground dwellers in the sense that you always find grasshopper on the ground in farmland. You won't find them on the trees. And also for insects, we have various categories of insects. We have what we call biting and chewing insects. This is where the grasshopper falls under. We have what we call piercing and sucking insect. For example, the mosquito pierces and suck. Then we have what we call the boring insect. So they can ask you in exam, what are the three categories of insect based on their mouth part? So you should remember biting and chewing, you should remember piercing and sucking, and lastly, boring. So back to the grasshopper. They possess powerful hind limbs, that their back legs are very strong for jumping and also escaping predator, and they have a short forelimbs that help them to grab food. So they undergo what we call an incomplete. Remember the first one that go complete. Now this guy undergoes an incomplete metamorphosis. Incomplete in the sense that they move from egg to what we call nymph, NYMPH, then finally to adult. So they have three life stages: egg to nymph and then to adult. And they protect themselves by what we call camouflage, in the sense that the grasshoppers are green and they stay in green grasses. So most times it is very difficult to easily spot them. Another thing to take note of is that the grasshoppers have three pairs of walking leg, and then a group of grasshoppers is called a locust. There are times during the farming season where a group of grasshopper could invade a farmland. We call that group a locust. Then for the economic importance, they are destructive plants. They reduce agricultural output. Also, they can reduce the farmer's income. And there are other species of the grasshoppers like the Myophilus differentialis and the Homocetus viridulus. So we move on to look at specimen K, which is the cotton stainer. So the scientific name for this specimen is Disdecus suchorilus. So can be asked, what type of insect or what type of pest is specimen K? Specimen K is a piercing and sucking insect. Remember, I have classified the type of insect into the biting and chewing, the piercing and sucking, and also the boring. So this particular specimen falls under the piercing and sucking insect. So by description, this insect is a piercing and sucking insect which attack the young buds of cotton plant. So when it attacks them, it reduces the maturity or the growth of this young cotton bud. Also, it produces a brown yellow substance which stain the cotton bud. Hence the name, the cotton stainer. So just to add, the cotton stainer also attacks the orange plant, and when it does that, it causes the orange fruit to fall, and when they fall, decay is setting in a short period of time. So they can also find another species of the cotton stainer. So another good species of the cotton stainer is called the Disdecus singulatus. So lastly, for specimen H to K, they can ask us, how do we control these specimens? Because they are pests and obviously they are destructive in the farmland. So number one way by which we can control them is using of what we call pesticide. Also, we can use what we call plant rotation, or by practicing plant rotation. Then the third way is by using their natural enemies. So by plant rotation, it helps us to control pests. If I plant maize on portion A of a farmland and it was attacked by maize weevil, I can decide not to plant it on A, but rather I'll plant it on, let's say, portion D of the farmland. This will help to reduce the pest. So by the natural enemies of this pest, we can use bigger organisms that feed on this pest. So by so doing, this will help to remove the pest from the farm land. So move to specimen L, which is a common organism, which is the tilapia fish. When it tell you identify, simply write the tilapia fish. So for the scientific name, it is known as the Tilapia spermani. So by description, this organism live in fresh water. Just to add, there are three aquatic habitats. You can have a freshwater habitat, that is an habitat with a very low amount of salt content. You can have what we call marine habitat, which is an habitat with a very high amount of salt content. Then we have what we call an estuarine, or a brackish water. That is where salty water and fresh water meet. So the tilapia is a freshwater fish which live in shallow water. Shallow means not deep. Examples are ponds and river. So the tilapia can live up to 10 years and they are a good source of protein. Remember, fish is serve as good source of protein. So the characteristic feature of this specimen are the possession of gills for respiration. They have streamlined body for easy movement in water. They have scales for protection, like scales is all over their body. They have fins which help them in movement. So in your exam, they can even give you a particular question and ask you, list four characteristic features of a fish. What are those things that are very, very peculiar to fish? So you can just write number one, scales. Number two, they have fins. Number three, gills. Also, streamlined body. There are several other things. So they can ask you their features and their uses. So next, they have several types of fins. We have what we call pelvic fin, pectoral fin. They have inner fin. We have caudal fin, and then we have lateral fin, or rather dorsal fin. There's nothing like lateral fin, it's dorsal fin. So they typically feed on algae and then zooplankton. So they can ask you economic importance. Remember, I've told you that economic importance means both the good and the bad. So for these guys, they serve as food to man because they are good source of protein. So they are used for producing what's called fish oil. Some serves as fish oil, and also they produce fish meal, which are used for feeding livestock. So we move over to specimen M, which is hay. Hay is just dried grasses that have been properly stored to feed livestock, mostly herbivorous animals like sheep, cow, goat, and the likes. So now for description, hay is a combination of grasses, legumes, and other herbaceous plants that have been properly dried and stored. So for the economic importance, the basic economic importance is that it helps us, or it serves as feed for livestock, most especially our herbivorous animals. So they can answer what are the major processes to make hay. Number one, we have cutting. Number two, we have drying or curing. Curing means preservation. Then we have raking, then processing, and then storage. So hay is best served to animals when they are still fresh and green because the nutrients are very much available than when they are dried. So our last specimen, which is specimen N, is the fish meal. So the fish meal is also called the fish protein concentrate. So it is made up from processed fish from which oil and water has been removed, and it has been properly processed into solid. So it is basically used to feed livestock, most especially fishes, hence it's called fish meal. But they can also add it to the feed of other livestock like chicken, others poultry, and other. It can even serve as feed to man. Why? Because of its high protein content. So just to add, in your exam, you can be asked what's the relationship between specimen L, which is tilapia fish, and then specimen N, which is the fish meal. What you just have to know is that specimen L, which is tilapia, can be used to produce specimen L, which is fish meal. Also, fish meal can serve as feed for specimen L, which is tilapia fish.